Sure. What part of the ride?
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, in all ways, for
yeah,
sure.
what you and I have talked about doing, and that's the purpose that we've come together today, is we wanted to kind of catalog the journey that got us here. What creates a team like the one that you have built, that produces at the level that you produce, and that has such a high expectation for people that come to work here and for those that we serve. I wanted to go back and explore kind of the journey that got here. You cool with that?
Sure. Yeah.
So, for a moment, take us through how you got into real estate. What were you doing? How did you come here? Kind of walk us through a little of the background, if you would.
Sure. Yeah. I get my I'm horrible with dates, but I would say back in 2010, 2011, I had always worked from age 15 on. I had a pretty good job, and then the recession had happened in like '09 going into 10, and when talking to my dad about, I've always had a fascination with real estate. I was speaking with my dad over the course of a couple of months, and we were starting to see properties in the Sacramento region, come up for sale for 60,000, 75,000, and I
Seriously.
was like, hey, it would be,
I
I
miss
mean,
those days.
right? And I had actually just broken up from a long-term relationship, and I had approached my dad. I was like, "Hey, you should buy one of these houses, and I'll rent it from you," because we had separated and we were moving into our own places and all of that. And he was like, "You know what? That sounds like a great idea." And we wound up doing that. We found a property. I moved into it, and him and I renovated it while I lived in it, and that kind of kicked off my interest in my it piqued my interest in investing in real estate. So that led from one house to three and four houses. And at the same time that was all happening, I had decided, you know what, I'm going to get my license mainly to try to get the key so I can get inside of these houses. Because honestly, I was calling on for sale signs, just like, all buyers in today's market. I was having challenges getting people to call me back, showing up on time, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to get this license so I can cut the real estate agent out and I can get in these houses myself. That's what led me into real estate. I got my license, and I joined my first brokerage, Remax, in late 2012 going into 2013, and the rest is kind of history from there.
And you and I met at a time that you were not at Remax.
Yeah.
So take us from Remax to the point that we became acquainted.
Yeah, I would say this is like 2014-ish. I had the opportunity to partner on a real estate team at Keller Williams, and that team was the number one team in KW of all of KW during the foreclosure crisis. That agent that I partnered with was the number one. They called it REO, or foreclosure broker, in America. Like, he crushed it, right? And the challenge was, just as fast as REOs and foreclosures happened, they also went away just as fast. And so what was happening in his business is he was losing, the REO business was going away. And then at the time, there was a national home buyer called Imitation Homes, and they were buying up properties as rentals. Well, they came into our market, and he was their broker. And so he did another 400, 500, 600 transactions over 2 years. And just like the REO business, it went away like almost immediately. So in 2014, he was making a pivot away from, having one institutional customer to building a real estate team. And that's when I met him. And so from 2014 to, 2015, early 2016, we were, building a real estate team. And my first year in real estate, I sold 48 homes. Second year, I think it was like 100. And I had transitioned into a listing partner role, taking him out of production during that time. And that's about the time when you came into our world to help coach us, because it was basically on year 3 or 4, we had been trying to build a real estate team and we were hiring like crazy with no accountability on, what is our value, what does our team stand for, what are our standards. From a marketing perspective, we were signing up for radio and direct mail and internet leads, and no one was holding it accountable. We had no like process. So we wound up selling like 400 houses. I think this is late 2016, 2017, but we didn't make any money, right? So we had sold like 400 homes, over 4 million in gross commissions. This is 6 years ago, 7 years ago, but we didn't make any money. So we had brought you in to try to help us, mainly help the owner, get on track for holding the finances accountable, because we all had a profit share. The leadership team had a profit share interest, so certainly we wanted to make profits so we can earn extra money, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you what impressed me about you guys. Listen, if you make $1 million and you write a check for $1.1 million to get your $1 million, you have lost money.
Yeah.
And you guys, I want to say it was like 40, 45 people in the organization. Was it more than that?
I don't think we ever got more than that, but we were certainly nearing 40 for sure. We had 21 agents, 22 agents at our peak.
And I remember there was a personal favor cashed in. Remember my buddy Craig Rieger, I was coaching a guy named Craig Rieger. He was the regional director there, and he said, will you please do this? I had a great conversation with that agent that was here. So super nice guy, feeling all the weight of what was going on. He'd lost control of it. But in the midst of this failing business financially, you had a core group of people that really got it, that were willing to do whatever was required. And so in my memory, we had these meetings. You were a part of that. There was a small group of people where we decided what lead sources are we going to continue to pay for, who is converting at the highest level, the highest. We're only going to keep them. And it was this, in the process of just a few weeks, we took that team from 45 down to, what was it? It was like
18, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, at least
18.
Over 50% of the team, including staff, we cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was amazing to me, and
it was great at the same time.
Yeah. It was. It's always horrible because you care about these people. You want this to work, and going backwards in your business feels like it can be so defeating, but the truth is you guys were taking the business back.
Yeah. I think it was it was a great learning experience for me, right? While the company didn't do well or make money, I certainly did, and I was hustling and selling a lot of real estate. But I think it was we had gone through at least 3, maybe 4 of those transitions where, we made all these, I didn't, but, the owner made all these promises, and whether it was special splits or special leads or special deals or administrative salaries or bonuses and stuff, that we had to go back and change and take back, right? And I watched that happen like at least 3 or 4 times. And
that kind of takeaway is so deflating for people.
It's horrible. Yeah, you cannot get ahead when you're having to, it's just you're over-promising to try to get someone to join your team, and then you're under-delivering and you're having to reset expectations. And, for me, I'd rather grow extremely slow and not do that and have to change things and go back and take things away from people than do it that way, where you're making promises that you cannot keep. Or I think realistically what was happening is we were promising things based on growth and like based on projections, and like, if we do this, then you'll make this, and you cannot do that. It's like leading, it's like leading with revenue, right? Like you only grow to the extent your revenue does. You don't try to start spending your way out of problems, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you can't. I heard it said one time that you can't outspend poor money management.
Maybe for the short term, you
Yeah.
can, right? I think you're starting
Yeah,
to see this in like
and you guys,
technology
we had
companies
done
right
that.
now, right? Like
And-
they're
yeah.
they're they're like laying off 10, 20% of their workforce. Like there are periods of times where that can work, right? But when the market is like normalizes, that does not work. And all of your flaws, your fatal flaws start to show when like the real business environment shows up.
Well, I will tell you what really stood out to me, Steve, is that I had never seen a listing specialist like you before. And at the time, I was coaching many of the top teams, but you were a person that took complete ownership thinking into play. And you were how many? I want to say you were doing over 100 listings that you were generating and
Easily, yeah.
yeah, and you were doing the whole thing. You're like a team owner's pure dream,
Yeah, I wish I had one right now.
right?
Yeah, no, I would say for 4.5 years, I averaged about 300 appointments gone on, about 170 listings signed, about 130 closed. Somewhere around there.
So we get you based on what you guys did. This team turns around, finds profitability,
Yep.
and then right out of the blue, and this is such a catalyst for this story. Right
Sure.
out of the blue, and you and I both want to tell this story with great respect for the individual that was a part of this. And though we're not going to name his name, this is an important part. He decides, away from everyone else, to make a big move. Will you talk us through that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, respectfully, everything happened for a reason, right? And it's all, everything is good for all parties involved. But I basically got a notification on my way to the office that, hey, I need to talk to you. I want to talk to you about some opportunities off-site, away from the office, which was very weird at that time. Yeah. So I did, pulled off and discussed it. And basically, he had made the decision to move the team to a different brokerage, right? And in that conversation, it was clear to me that this wasn't like a consultation. It wasn't like, what do you think? What would need to happen to get everyone pumped up about this move? What would need to happen with our 60 listings to get them transitioned over here, right? It was more, hey, this is what I've done. This is why it's great for you, and this is why I'm excited, which did not sit well with me, right? Being on a team, you have that built-in, like you are working for someone, right? And you are an entrepreneur. You're entrepreneurial within someone else's business, and you should get where you want to go much faster. And my team definitely provided that to me. Like the opportunities I had in that role, I wouldn't be where I am today without those, right?
Yeah.
But what it showed me was I lost the ability to make decisions on my own, right? Someone else made a decision that's going to affect me, not just me, but everyone else in our team. And it made me really feel that, for 5.5, 6 years, I felt very entrepreneurial, and I was actually running that company and I was a decision maker. But it was the first time in like 6 years I felt like, whoa, it's just a good reminder. This is not your business, right? And that decision got made. And it wasn't, there was no animosity. I was actually interested in the opportunities. So I said, hey, let me explore and digest this and think about this. I actually was scheduled like 30 days from I got that news to have our first child, actually. So, part of my frustration was like, dude, I'm having a kid in 30 days, right? And this is going to create moving brokerages at that size of business.
Yeah.
Especially with my role in that team, I was like the leader, and everyone was going to look to me at what was I going to do, right? And then also, having all of the listings, it was going to create a huge mess of work, and that mess wasn't going to go away in a month. It was going to take like 90, 120 days. So anyways, I was considering in consulting all those things, exploring the opportunity, and then Gary Keller actually reached out, that same day, and he had found out about the move.
Yeah, do you know how he found out?
I think you told him.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you told him, and then he
what
called.
was amazing to me, keep me honest here, Steve, but what was amazing to me is the owner made that decision to go, and no one went with him.
Yeah, it took about a week for that to transpire, right? Like, meaning like the decision, but Gary called the same day, and offered the next day to clear his day, and flew us, like the leadership team, me and two others, sales manager and our listing manager, out to Austin, and we spent a whole day with Gary Keller, which was very cool and very eye-opening and all of that. When we got back, everyone on the team basically said, Steve, whatever you think you're going to do, we'll do, because we trust your judgment, right? I think people I'd been there the longest. They had built a respect for my work ethic. I wasn't their leader. I didn't show up and hold all them accountable. I think they all just saw what I did and wanted to emulate and follow it, right? And financially, I was very frugal, and I was constantly teaching them how to build wealth. And I think they just looked to me as like a good decision maker, right? And so I took almost a week to decide what to do, and ultimately I decided to stay at Keller Williams, and that made a deal with my old team owner, because I still had all this business, right? And he didn't have any agents to work the business, so we made a win-win deal where we had a revenue share agreement. I would pay him until he starts getting rebuilt, and he wouldn't have to work the deals, obviously, because he didn't have anybody to work them. So it was a real win-win. I helped launch his business, he helped launch mine, and we started over from scratch. And it was a great opportunity, because at that time there was a lot of commission compression, there was a lot of questions of agent value. So at that time, it allowed me to take all this stuff I learned over the last 5-6 years and think about, okay, if I wanted to build the real estate team of the future for not just agents but the customers, right? What do we need to offer customers to where they're reaching out to us, and we're truly differentiating in the marketplace? And then the same for the agents. What can I offer agents that's differentiating them from everyone else? And then most certainly, when I make offers to people, I want to start with offers that I know I can keep, and then lead with revenue and grow their income through revenue, and then grow their income through their production, meaning like, you have to show up and like do XYZ to get that opportunity, right?
You have to do what you were essentially saying. You have to do what I do.
Right.
Like, you weren't asking anyone to do
my
something
income
that
only
you
goes
had
up
modeled
if I
for
work.
them.
Yeah, if I grow my sales, or if I work harder. It's not like my income just magically goes up, right? By
Yeah.
by adding people to my world. In fact, my income usually goes down when I add a bunch of people in my world, right?
That's something that a lot of people don't understand, is that when you start growing through others, it is harder at first. You work more at first, and you make less money at first. In every way, it is an investment.
Yes. Yeah, and it might take years to kind of learn by failure, like, oh, that person is not the right fit, or oh, I made the wrong promises, or I was not ready to bring that person into my world, right? Our business doesn't generate enough leads for them to have opportunity. All of those things.
You did something that I still to this day talk about with frequency. It was exactly what someone that wants to seize a moment should do. And let me tee this up for you, and then you take it from there. When you decided, okay, I'm going to launch my team, you got everyone together. I remember you said to me, I am going to give this every ounce of energy and focus I've got for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
Yes. You
I'd
want me
love
to
for you to
elaborate on
talk
that?
about that because
Yeah.
a lot of times when, we've seen countless times where people start a team and their focus is to get time back as they're leading everyone else to do it. You went straight to the front and basically said to everyone with you, I'm going to sprint, and if you want to come with me, sprint with me. We're doing this together.
Yeah. It's funny. I told my wife, we've been married for 8 years now. When I first met her, I kind of explained, this is what I'm doing. And I was maybe 3 years into being an agent. So I was just like getting momentum, I would say, after 3 years. And I let her know, like, my commitment to myself was I was going to go as hard as I can, 7 days a week for 5 years as an agent. And I would feel like I made it at that point. And by the time I met her, I was making multi six figures. I had no financial issues. Like, I made it already. And I had just reached like that 5-6 year mark, and this all happened, right? And it blew everything up. So I had to call my wife back in. We were having our next kid, and I was like, man, I feel like I'm gonna have to do this all over again. I'm gonna have to make another 5-year commitment from scratch, And so I actually only kept one person from our team. We had like 18 people. I kept one agent that was brand new. He had never sold any real estate. But he was the only one I felt like from the whole group that would be able to run with me, basically. And so we started over, right? And I had one administrative person and him. In that first year, we went as hard as we could on that database that we already had. And I think our first year we closed 86 homes. This is back in in the fall of 2018 is when this happened. Our first full year was 2019, and we closed 86 units. And our second year, just him and I, we had not added another agent. We had added a second admin, though. We had closed nearly 128 units, and then 2020 happened, and we all know what happened there. We expanded very quickly. We added multiple more admins, multiple agents, and in 2020 we closed like 170 units. 2021 we closed 221. 2022 we were right about 200. Dropped down a little bit, and last year, of course, like everyone else, our sales were dramatically impacted, but we hit 140 sales last year, and we're tracking for about 150 this year.
Yeah. Steve, talk a little bit about what we have laid out here, and what you've laid out is you've laid out the story behind why you work the way you do and what the expectation is for those that come here to work with you. I've known you for a long time now, and I see you striving to provide for others the same opportunity that was provided for you in the early days, but you also require that they take it like you did.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little?
Well, I think I've always had a strong work ethic, right? And, even to this day, I tell myself I've done like landscaping. I worked for a commercial printer, and I'm still working like 10-hour days, right? Like, to me, it's not hard. Like, I love what I do. It's better than digging holes and doing landscaping when it's 100 degrees out, right? And so, like, this work is not hard for me. It's exciting. It could be very stressful, right? But I learned also through my old partner, like, that guy had been a real estate agent for 30 plus years, and he was still hustling, right? Like, that guy was someone who would outwork anyone else, and he would never take no for an answer. He would never assume a lead is bad. He would just call, right? And so I do credit him for just showing me the path of like what does it take to succeed in real estate. Now, that doesn't mean that he was a successful business person, because he did not do that very well, right? And so, it really showed me, like, as long as you're willing to put forth the effort and the hustle, you don't even have to have sales skills. You can outperform everyone else. So for me, what I've always tried to instill in the people around me is, I'm probably challenging to work with because I have high expectations and I'm actually out there doing this stuff too. And so if someone around me is saying like, I'm not where I want to be and I'm not hitting my goals, but I'm there out hustling them, and they're 1 year or 2 years in the business and complaining about not being where they want to be, and I'm ahead of them running faster than them, then I have very little willingness to slow down for that person. Now, the people who are around me that aren't yet hitting their goals, that are running with me or ahead of me, now that person I absolutely want to wrap my arms around and like sit down with them and help them and shove more opportunity their way. But nothing in, it doesn't matter what business you're in, but especially the sales business, like it takes action, right? Like I will always look at what is your action. I don't really care about what the result is. It's just, are you putting forth the effort? Because I know if you're putting forth the effort consistently day in and day out, the results will follow. I don't care who it is, right?
Yeah.
And so I've kind of run off of that methodology is like, I don't want anyone in my world to be asked to do something that I'm not currently doing, right? And I don't want to lose touch with that either. So yes, as I become more successful and as I have more opportunity to take a step back and not work as hard, I don't ever want my people to not see me hustling because, I don't ever want to become that business owner driver's seat where I'm like so hands off that I'm not doing any work anymore, right?
Right.
And so I don't think I would respect that.
Those people become out of touch. They become out of touch with the front line.
Yes. Yeah, and having been on a team, right? And enjoyed being on a team, one of the things that I respected was like I could show up and my team owner was hustling, right? Like he and then there came a point where I wanted him out of the way, right? Like there was a point where he was just getting in our way and he had earned the right to say, hey man, you need to go golfing, 2 days a week and get out of the office because you're just getting in our way, right? And so I'm trying to pay attention to, am I that right now, right? Like, are there situations where I am in the way, right?
You are not.
Not yet, I don't think, but
you could be
someday.
But I can tell you today you're not. But that's and probably the reason you're not, Steve, is you're asking that question.
Yeah.
Like who's the right person to take and own this thing? And the other thing that I admire about the way you run your business is you are really deliberate in how a person gets onboarded and trained and the time that they get and the resources.
Definitely.
That they get. We both have heard it said that racehorses want to run with racehorses. And I think your organization is a place for people that really want to run. They may not be comfortable, but what they desire in life is more important to them than a little discomfort.
Sure. I mean, I think it's like we're just focused on real estate teams right now. I mean, it is just full of, most real estate teams, and I would argue that they're not real businesses. They're like collections of agents selling real estate together, and the emotional fun of the group is what attracts and keeps them together, right? And I am not a very emotional guy, and anybody watching this, if they're considering joining our team, they're going to know I'm not like an emotional person, and that's not what I want to attract to our team. The challenge is if you look at those teams that have done that, like, you'll see them pop up where they have 5 agents and they have 20, and everyone's cheering their growth, right? But the growth is not real. Like there's no sales that follow, there's no production, there's no leads that the team is generating to support that growth, right? Yeah. And that is absolutely not what I want to be as an organization. So because of the value that we offer, and because of the unique things that we bring to agents to allow them to produce at a high level, I have to be very careful, not only because we're offering a lot more value than most agents, and it costs a lot more money to do that, but we don't want to bring the wrong people into our world. I think people underestimate how expensive and time consuming it is to, as a small business, bring someone in and train them up and offer them a seat, because it might take me 200 hours to invest in someone in their first 3 months. Well, if you take my hourly wage times 200, that's a lot of money. And that's just my hours. Think about all the administrative people that are helping that person, and the cost of technology and added monthly fees and their salary and their W-2 payroll stuff. And so it's expensive to bring someone into our world. So we're just careful. And I think it's important on us, if we're not setting proper expectations of like what are your production standards, like what are you supposed to do, and then holding it accountable along the way, we're not setting that person up for success at all. And so my job is to make sure that you can get further faster with us versus on your own or in another company, right? So yeah. I feel like it's our job to do that.
Yeah. Well, Steve, I think we've done it.
Cool.
In closing, what would you say to someone who is looking for a place to really push themselves?
Yeah, I would say that I believe, what I've always believed in is a culture of productivity will bring the fun, right? Meaning, sure, we have team events and we want to have fun and all of that, but when everyone is hitting their goals or close to hitting their goals and not worried about finances and not worried about where their next closing is coming from, if you're not worried about those things and you are just have an abundance of opportunity, it makes everything more fun. If your goal is flexibility in your schedule, well, having more money and consistent income solves that for you. Like, you can take as many days off as you want if you have plenty of money coming in, right? If you are worried about your future and retirement, and maybe you have kids and how do you support them, money solves that problem, right? Money's a tool to help you get the freedom you want. So my focus is, how do I help people increase their income while still having fun at work? But let's be honest here, like, work is not always fun, right? And it's not designed to be always fun. I think after 2 or 3 or 4 years, when you become a master at something, then it becomes fun. But your first climb up, when you're trying to figure out how to be a good admin or be a great agent, it's not that fun, right? Like, you have to learn the business and get confident and comfortable. But until you've earned the right to like question things or question the model or do it your way, I have been one to just follow the plan of someone else who's been where I want to go. And I didn't ask questions, I just did it, right? And so that's what I would argue is, like, if you're considering joining a team like ours, just follow the plan, right? Yep. And just trust the process. You are not smarter than my process, right? And my process is not created by me. It was stolen from someone else, who that person stole it from someone else, and we're just smart enough not to mess with it.
It's been iterated, and now, and it has been proven time and time again.
For 20 years.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just, it's just from this book right here, right? And, we've just modernized it a little bit, right? But the principles still apply. And, and I'm really proud of the things that we have done. Like, we've had 6 people buy their first home in our organization over 6 years, right? And I've had 4 people pay off all of their debt, including their student loans. Their loans were not forgiven; they paid them off. So we not only do we have high standards for like who we let in, but my goal is to help you start thinking like a business owner and build wealth over time.
Dude, that is the mark of someone worth running with. All right, Steve.
Hopefully.
I think we nailed it. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, man. Yeah, this is good.
All right, hang here for a minute.
Okay.
Let me stop.